Okay, I think we are live. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
We can.
Yes.
Yeah. So now and I have been still been working on the cryptobotics white paper, and I think now made a little more progress. Not much as much, but we can have a look for some time on that. And then Eric, you also had some topics previously, right? Uh, you were mentioning
Which,
about it last week on the thread.
yes, I tried to sum up what we talked about recently. I don't remember now. Sorry. What was that?
Did you go to iSparrow, the conference?
My team went, but not me. Perhaps I can invite someone to talk about it if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe now if you have something to share, a screen.
Yeah. Let's try to do a square. Mm,
You're back
We
in Barcelona now, right? Or still in Finland or somewhere? Oh, Iceland.
I'm back in Barcelona, and yeah, I just went back from a trip
Ah, okay.
last month from Iceland, and that was quite a place to say to simulate a Mars rover situation. Like it's pretty much the worst and the best uh, weather wise. So what's if you have been seeing my screen, I think you're seeing my screen. Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
yes.
these are just all the links that we have managed to we have posted in the CryptoBotics thread, and
Wow.
um the thing is like we have mentioned wanting to create a notebook LM that does the that people can use to query some things that they need about protocols. Um, so in this case, if you have a browser like this one, not this. Yeah, you can just tell it to select a few links that will go well together, or select some links about X402, for example, and it'll just select a link and open an OpenLM. So that this setup is great because you don't need a dedicated notebook LM for it. You don't need to have one notebook LM for 99, like for all these links together, and you can query what you want. So the biggest problem with just having one notebook LM and everything inside that is that you cannot properly query the right scope. Say you just want to know about X402, and maybe you want to know about X402 with 8004 together, so that you know how these two protocols might interact. So now you actually can select automatically if you have an agent browser like this. So that's going to be useful in the future. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So a question to ask Anurag is like, what if there's something that we can output before the year ends? What would that be? Um, and yeah, that's probably what we were going to discuss today, like
Yeah.
what we're going to
So
output this
have you
year.
seen that space computer link I posted? These some guys called space computer are trying to put uh, blockchains in satellites and do currently the first demo they are doing is some true and random number generation for the nonces or something. Exactly don't
Yes.
know, but yeah. So if you go to the GitHub page of their links. So they have something called a blue paper. So it's like a draft vision of what they want to do. So they have, and then the white paper is basically planned in next quarter or in 6 months, something like that.
Yeah,
So so we
it's good
could
that
try.
I like managed to refresh the context, so everyone can see the paper in the. I think that is a like good level of specificity that space computer has. So it kind of has a selection of technologies and a specific use case for the random number generator, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for cryptobotics, if we use the Tumblr robot as an example, there would probably be some kind of a technology selection and a use case demonstration, and that will be a blue paper. 5 pages? How many pages? But the pages the scope here is a little bit more than we can handle for this month, but this the feeling is quite okay.
I don't quite see the connection between the spreadsheet of like what is it, 100 plus protocols that you've compiled and this blue paper output format is the and the tumbler. So you're like three ingredients here are tumbler, blue paper format, and the list of protocols. Is the idea to like construct a speculative vision of how those protocols can be used on the Tumblr platform to form like a cryptobotics proof of concept? Is that the idea?
That would be a good idea because now we'll just have to select to connect the link the spreadsheet with the blue paper. First thing is like first thing this space computer paper does is that it does provide some scope on what technology they're probably going to use with that with the satellite network. So I guess for the Tumblr, a similar process can happen.
Yeah. Can you show the spreadsheet again? You did some basic clustering, right? About like what subsystems they relate to, stuff like that. I thought I saw a column like that.
Can you post a link? Uh,
Yeah, that would be useful, the spreadsheet link. Like maybe a paper is too far away, but just publishing an annotated list of protocols with links, with brief comments on like why each is relevant to robotics, that would be a very useful artifact in my opinion. Like why is 402 useful to robots? Because you can pay them. Why is 8004 or whatever is, I don't know why that's useful. So that would be, I think, a useful artifact, and then that becomes the basis for more.
I think we could have like one more column, which basically it's like categorization of like this has this marketplace, right? So where it could be used. So there was this common marketplace for, let's say, robotic rover services, something like that, and then we could categorize on in a column here, something like that.
Yeah, this needs more resolution, I think. Like the type column now says YaRG input, solution, white paper, article. This feels, yeah, I don't know how to interpret this. Like some of these are components you can use in a cryptobotics architecture. Others are descriptions of other people's, like, row 17 is SUI smart contracts platform. So that's not like a direct something you can immediately incorporate into the Tumblr architecture. that's more like you can look at the whole system and ask if there are any component ideas you can take, something like that, right? This is like multiple levels of abstraction kind of mixed up. So
Yeah, it's hard to make these types good in terms of resolution. I mean, even if we talk about one protocol, we might people might implement just a part of the protocol. Like they might use just one role within the protocol, and the other role they outsource it to another service. So to make this actually useful, it's more than just the rough resolution here. The actual bracketing of correct context to use within those links will provide more useful information.
and you were
But
saying something about notebook LM is not useful for this. Is this because this you have 100 items in this list? Is that too much for notebook LM to like think about? Should we identify a subset or something?
yeah, firstly, there's too many links. Second, we cannot get a good query out of 19, like after 20 links. If you just ask Notebook LM for something, it'll just spit a lot of different small segments that barely relates to what you want to know from a lot of papers. So you cannot get the correct scope of what you want to do after a certain number of links. So the better way to do this is to just query a browser agent that tells you that helps you select the links within these that selects like 6 to 8 links within these holdings and create a notebook LM out of that. Then notebook LM will be useful.
So maybe we can use ChatGPT or Claude to do the filtering. Like give it the spreadsheet and say we are trying to construct a two-wheeled robot that maximizes use of cryptography technologies. Select 6 to 8 of these technologies to try and use. Something like that might work. Because this is a lot.
Yeah, or better if you have a Perplexity Comet, which does it with the browser, so you don't need to copy and paste. So you just ask in the browser, and the browser just does it for you. Opens a new page, opens a new page, opens a new notebook LM, and paste the link. So you don't have to do this even.
Okay.
You can see that in the use case tab where we have a reference link. Yeah, new notebook LM with several links, and yeah, it's just example of what I queried, and I just log into Google, and it creates something like this. And in real life, it opens a new tab and get the links inside it.
How did you scrape these links, or how did you get these links? Did you copy paste, or did you use some script?
I just copy paste
Mm.
because the volume is not so the throughput is like a few links. Just it's the column, the resolution is small, is not enough, but the good thing is that it makes it really fast to get up to date with everything.
You're trying to do some part of this as part of your grad school program, right? I forgot exactly what you're doing, but there's some link.
I was thinking like whether some part of the tech chain can be inspirational, but it's not like I have any pressure to use any of this. It's just inspiration mostly. And if there are some links that I can use in the end, that would be great. Yeah.
So one way to do something with this is define the current state of the Tumblr architecture as best as we can, and give it this spreadsheet plus top 6 links, and say come up with a roadmap of maximally cryptobiotic version of the current state in the next 3 years, and make it do a project plan. Like right now, the current state, yeah, Anuraj is best able to describe it, but I would say it's a two-wheel robot with two ESP32s and running some version of Farcaster server and able to accept some mini app based control, remote control, and crypto payments. Is that an accurate description of the current state?
Yeah, mostly yes.
Okay, so then we can ask, that's initial conditions. This is all the material available. We have triaged 6 to 8 things that could do something. And a good output would be what's a tech roadmap that's realistic for the next 3 years or something like that. That might be fun.
Do you think it's able to do that? It's not too big a task?
I don't know. I've never tried anything like this with AI.
I think it's possible,
No, I mean,
but
it will give us an answer.
we need more like a specification and what idea, like we will need to like talk in the Discord about like there will be many selection. Like if we prompt the same prompt for 3 or 4 times with this and the specification is not clear enough, it will just output different answers every time.
I think that's fine. If it generates multiple different answers, that's exploring the design space depending on like the components available, right? So maybe if it uses 402 and 804, it finds a couple of interesting roadmaps. If it picks something else like the say contract system, it figures out another different direction. But the key is to find interesting directions, I think, not converge on one canonical one.
Yeah, I think prompt flow, like add another few use cases where this can be helpful for the direction wise and protocol selection wise. Yeah. Yeah, I think the new column can be called a resolution column. Could be something like how we do what we do in this link. What can we do with the content? Something like that. And, yeah. Yeah, this is another quick way if you want to refresh the context on everything, because I did this spreadsheet in a few hours, and I think it was the best way to create to refresh the context of the conversation. So if you want me to track another Discord thread with, and that thread has a lot of links, that might be doable for another thread if I program something.
One thing we could do is like, yeah, what we have currently on Tumblr, and then try to have something like a demo. What could go into the from here? What has been already in the demo, and what could go for the demo, or maybe next 6 months.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, like for example, we have like partially some sort of X402 already, uh, and then what else? We have like a forecaster login, uh, forecaster payments. Yeah, kind of that is what we have right now from here. So, they describe the demo in this blue paper. Seems not. It's just the initial idea. Yeah. Yeah, this is I think like a good this figure, like how much time it takes for the any uh, cryptographic transaction for its finality on in orbital or on Mars. So that is something uh, could be considered.
in space.
Yeah, so I think that's it for for my update on this about the application. That was actually what I wanted to do in the first place, but in a more graphical way. But this I'm trying to make it more like because debugging has becoming more and more of a problem. I was in like a software engineering hell for a few weeks, but it was fun. But it was not enough for something to be output before the year ends. So I turned to making a spreadsheet that will be more impactful in the short term.
I think let's see if we can get something out. It's like difficult in maybe 2 3 weeks, right? We have until Christmas.
Yeah, at least the
Uh,
spreadsheet can have something output.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we can like organize something in the spreadsheet, and then maybe others can comment if something is more is needed, and then put it out. And now we can move on to the PCB assembly. Mayor Red Vegan, uh, did you try to assemble the PCB on your Tumblr?
No, I was waiting for us to do it together. I can
Yeah.
re-video it if I do it alone.
Uh, if you can, but how would you show how you're assembling? Do you
I
have the
don't know.
setup?
Um,
Yeah, like you
Wait,
can.
I mean, assembly is just the mechanical part, right? Put the standoffs and put the board
Yeah.
on. That's it, right? It's like a 2 minute job. The main hard part is getting the software booted up on the new board and stuff like that. Correct?
So that process doesn't change, right?
But the idea by assembly, I guess, is that we mean the whole setup, right? It's put the mechanical part, but after the software and to have something end-to-end working. That would be an interesting session, I believe, and to
Yeah,
have
but
several
like
of us doing it in parallel.
we haven't ported. At least not the self balancing, but we can try the old, uh, the one with the caster wheel.
So,
That we can try to assemble.
yeah, I mean, this will take some planning ahead, but yeah, if we plan to do this for next week's session, I can do the mechanical assembly part at least and have the USB cables and stuff ready. And
Mm.
then in the session, you can walk us through what to flash onto the chip, and we can try to make the motors at least turn right.
Yeah,
Then, yeah. And
that
I
will
think in the
require some
short
setup.
term,
Yeah.
the caster wheel solution is what we will be uh, doing, because I think right now we are stressing the ESP32 part and the crypto integration and forecaster kind of stuff, right? That's the part that we are working on. The balancing and stuff, I guess we can focus on that in another phase.
Yeah. Uh, if somebody, I can walk it through right now. If somebody has a setup, it's just like nothing changes on the ESP32. It's just assembly on the mechanical side.
Yeah, my stuff is all disassembled
Yeah.
and not ready right now, so I'll need some time to prepare
So
for.
maybe we can set that up for next week. I'll do some setup to myself on this side.
Yeah. And I bought a second tumbler which I haven't yet unpacked or assembled. So,
You mean the
first one.
Yahoo one?
No, that's just a chassis with motors and stuff. It doesn't have any electronics. But I bought a whole separate tumbler, uh, almost a year
Yeah.
ago. It's still sitting in the box. But I wanted one that's in factory condition that we can kind of play with the balancing in its original configuration. Because if we move it to the new configuration with a caster wheel attached and stuff, it'll probably take significant retuning to work again.
Yeah.
All right, so next week's plan is to try and get your new board tested on at least one of our rovers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you said the board basically works and all the changes are hardware level, so the stuff that we got working before will still work, right? Nothing has changed
Yeah.
there.
But we haven't tested the mini app.
Ah,
When we
yes.
so the hardware which we had was tested with this frames V1, and now frame V1 has been deprecated. So that mini app integration, I still haven't tried it yet. Uh,
Oh, and the other thing is, I think the couple of times we got it to work in on these calls, we were using ngrok, and I think we were also using ngrok in DevCon. We've never actually used a tailscale based setup, right?
I've used it at home in my own setup, so not publicly. So we haven't
So,
tested it.
Wait, tail scale
what are
were
we
used,
actually standardizing on? Are we going with tailscale or are we sticking with ngrok?
but we used tail scale in the other robot.
That
You
was
know, we
Red's
had
really old experiment. That's all I remember when he was doing the very different robot.
when we were in Tokyo, were we not on tail scale, Eric?
I don't think
I
so.
don't, I don't, no, I've never used it to scale myself. I
That
use
one
zero
was
Uh,
just
scale.
a web
Okay.
app connected to the two spider bots, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, but how did they talk?
Oh, I
We are using
you
remember.
had some
another,
micro page kite, I think, something called the page kite. No,
Yeah, page
Yes,
kite, right.
page kite. Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
that's the one.
Yeah.
that's
But
been 3 years ago.
yeah, so PageKite and ngrok are similar services, I think. But PageKite offers this micro PageKite micro Python library. So basically, you can directly run it on ESP32.
So, remind me again what the relative advantages of ngrok and tailscale are and why we were
So Tailscale is
standardizing.
just a VPN. If you run it on Tailscale, then once you are logged in via that app, and if we run our mini app on the digital ocean server right now, like it's running, then it's kind of secure, I would say. So there is no public endpoint. It's not
Okay.
going through the public internet.
So all the rovers would be on the tail scale and have like a local VPN IP address
Yes.
behind the proxy, and then the
Yes.
web app would talk to them through that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I'm curious to see how that's worked. That would be a good experiment to set up. Is that something in scope for next week or too much?
Let's try. I have tried it before. But I think you just have to set up a computer or a Raspberry Pi as a subnet, and then
Okay. So
it
that
gives
is an extra complex step.
extra. I have tried it before, but not with the mini app, but with frames. So let me try it again if I have.
Wait, why do you need uh, to make sure I understand? I can just use my laptop as the tail scale
Yeah,
endpoint. I
yeah.
don't need an RPi,
Yes.
right?
No, no. It should be any computer on the same network as your ESP32.
Okay, that's doable. But in future, it can be the onboard RPi when we get the big brain part integrated.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how I did it actually. I was running the tail scale on the RPI itself.
Okay. I do have an RPi, but that feels like
Yeah.
more complicated. If we try to do this next week, I'll try to do it on my laptop.
Okay. And what else? And then we wanted to do some spin-off discussions. Should we do it today or maybe in a future session? What's the plan?
Let's defer that to a future session. I just wanted to plant the seed for thinking early next
Yeah.
year because I'll just share my motivation. It's like, all the boom in robotics going on that we see, all the action happening, it's simultaneously inspiring and depressing that everything is exploding and booming and moving really fast. And many of the ideas we talked about 3 years ago, people who started later than us are like going much farther and faster. So clearly there's a boom going on, which means we have to ask. I think the fork in the road is if you want to actually be part of that booming seed, I think you do have to accelerate and do more. On the other hand, if you can find like a niche where the mainstream isn't focusing, then you can go at your own pace and develop your own thing. So I'm not yet sure which path we are on. This cryptobiotics thing, very few people seem to be doing it. So if we stay on cryptobiotics as a key idea, I think we can afford to stay relatively slow for a while.
Maybe not because it's getting faster, and now a lot of people know it, and it's not just Sui who is doing it right now. So blockchains in space and blockchains in it's like a lot of people know it already now, and then Sui people, I think the founder is involved in it, so it's like they have a lot of money to pour in.
And I think Solana people just announced, or somebody did a
Yeah.
major post claiming to do some robotics. I know how real it is. Uh, yeah, okay. So something to think about, and just recalibrate. It's time to recalibrate our ambition after what is it, 3 years at this point or four. Are we still in the mode we were when we started? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to think a little bit about it over the break and maybe have some inspiration.
Uh, I don't have any more topics.
Eric
Do
had
we have
something.
any?
No, I'm interested to do the PCB setup, but to make some preps until next week sounds like the best idea. Okay? For me, I have all the pieces that Anuraj suggested. So of course, I got the PCB, but also the standoff.
Standoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, the standoff. Okay, and I have an ESP and so on. Okay, so I think I'm ready to work. After on the spin out, it's like. I don't know. Maybe we can talk a little bit more if there is nothing else to do. Okay, right now, just brainstorming style. Because the thing is that spin out sounds more like building a company, and I don't know. In my experience, that really needs dedicated people full time, basically. Okay, at least a couple people. And if that's not feasible in the first place, I wonder whether it's useless to just it's useful to talk about the idea. Okay. Um, I don't know how a spin out would work, without motivation and dedication, basically.
I wasn't even thinking of like a company or startup. I don't think anybody in this group seems to display like, startup founding ambitions. I was thinking more like a more systematic open source project, try to recruit some more people and maybe get some open source type funding, like, a grant from some sources that will allow at least some people to dedicate some time, extra time to this.
So like
Yeah.
I don't think like a company might be needed, but it's like some sort of grant funding mechanism would motivate, like allow people to dedicate more time, right? So I think like for example, the Optimism blockchain group people give retro grants if you have done something, and then they generally, I think, once a year or once every 6 months they give out some grants. So that sort of thing could be done.
Yeah. So we actually applied and got Optimism retro grants for summer protocols. So it's pretty competitive, and the standard for since it's retroactive, it's based on what you've already done. So if, for example, we tried to apply today with what we have, the evidence we'd have to show would be the few builds we have, the example of the demo we did at DevCon, though we didn't document that well. So it takes a little bit more preparation, but we can target that. So we can say, what can we do in the next 3 months that creates a good case for retro funding? That's one option. And if you want like more proactive funding, you can do something like I think Gitcoin grants is forward looking, or you can just do something much more shit posty, which is like just set up a project split contract and say, hey, anybody wants to support this, send us some money. That's also possible. Like people are interested in this stuff. I think if we show them even like a few things, like a fun video or something, some people will be inclined to try and support. So there's options. There's a range of options between where we are now and a full-blown startup that can compete with Figure Eight or things like that. So I would like to explore that spectrum.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So it's more about having a flexible funding, basically, right?
Yeah. And like academic grants, like, yeah, I don't know, if we push hard, I think like I could get something in Finland, but then they also come with the caveat of like you have to publish, uh, show them the list of publications you have done.
Made publication in at conferences.
Conferences, journals, yeah, so that is how it's done here in Finland. So if I
Yeah,
push really hard, I could get
that's not worth it,
something.
I think. Yeah, it'll
Well,
completely
yeah,
demotivate you. It'll suck you back into the horrible publish and perish treadmill kind of shit. No, I
Yeah.
think the top variable that we've been optimizing for 4 years is fun. And I think if we stop having fun, the whole point is lost. So my um, ideal situation will be the fun either goes up or stays constant, but there is additional support to do slightly more ambitious things. Maybe if you want to travel and demonstrate at a conference, that's we can find ways to fund that. Like you wanted to come to Argentina and you applied for a grant. Maybe we don't have to go outside. Maybe we'd have funding in our own group to do it. And if we wanted to do a more ambitious build, like currently our builds are in the range of like a couple of $100, maybe $300. I think is the Galaxy rover which Rhett and I bought. So that's within the range of personal hobby budgets. But if we come up with a design for the YaRG rover that costs about say $2,000 worth of like custom machine chassis and more powerful motors and stuff, at that point I'm going to be very wary of like throwing my own money given my own commitment and like execution history. At that level I think it would be good to say, is there a systematic way to spec the rover, put out like a plan for building the rover, say it's going to cost $2,000, and then go ask people who are interested, hey, can you chip in a little bit? We are trying to build a $2,000 robot, and if you chip in, you get privileged access to teleoperation and stuff like that, right? So I think that's actually a good ambition target, like basically one order of magnitude increase in the sophistication of the builds we are capable of doing. Like, can we go up from like a $200 build to a $2,000 build without
Yeah,
paying
and I
for it
don't think
entirely? Yeah.
it needs to be currently, even the marketing needs to have the Mars thing, or we can have it, but like if we are able to build something reliable for even for Earth, some people might be interested in, just because there are YouTube videos, like people have just cameras watching a bird, and then it gets a million millions of views. So
Mm.
I think there would be enough people interested in just driving a robot around in some remote place.
Yeah, and I think we already kind of publicly abandoned the Mars rover positioning, right? Our public page now says YaRG Robotics Garage. It's not even specific to rovers; it's general robotics. So yeah, I think we have scope to produce something else. Yeah, so that would be $2,000 Earth scale demo of an interesting crypto robot that lots of people might be interested in supporting in return for robust hobby level access. So this means we would commit to not just building a $2,000 robot, but making it say 50% uptime all the time in a reliable area, like mayor's backyard or your Finland
No
ice,
chicken protecting.
something like that. Like people when they support, they do expect something in return, and I think the natural thing to ask for here is, can they control a robot for fun?
Yeah. So we have 10 more minutes. Uh, we have something more to discuss. We had
Is
some
there a way
simulation.
to
No, go on. I was just asking about the
also?
simulation.
Okay, so just before switching topic is perhaps something that is relevant to do offline. Okay, is to try to have an estimation about the financial targets for the ideas discussed
Yeah.
today, to see what is required for people to commit. Because personally, my problem of committing is not money. My problem of committing is that I need a goal. Okay, so this year I mainly worked on the mini app. Okay, but the mini app is kind of done. Okay, so now it's if we don't use it, I'm less driven. Okay, just to put it simply, to simplify. And so perhaps we have different needs. Okay, and so personally, I don't. If I have to put a number, it would be a number pretty low, basically. Okay, to help spend time on a more commitment on the activity. Okay, and so I wonder whether it's not something also interesting is to have an estimate of the kind of the volume we need to generate to make it sustainable. Okay, because here we expect that we do something cool, that the people will chip in. But if it's not enough for us to commit time to be able to actually do it, we are not. It's going to be a one shot, and we're going to give up pretty quickly, no?
Yeah, I think basically this will have to be figured out trial and error. So what happens if
Yeah.
we,
Okay.
10x the, in a way, yeah, same as you, the money itself is not the constraint for me. It's more like if we increase the commitment level to a $2,000 robot, suddenly it feels more serious, and I want to see what that does to the motivation of the group and whether we end up doing things slightly differently. And also, I think it creates like an easier technology problem for integration. So, for example, the current loose longer term plan we're thinking of is outdoor capable, maybe with like a radio modem that can talk to the cellular network with like a manipulator arm on top. This is a fairly complex, high power robot, but it's also like uh, not a bunch of unintegrated experiments. There's enough room in this idea that you can do all this. Like you can have a heavier battery, you can have more compute, you can run 8 motors at once instead of two. So you give yourself a bigger canvas, technical canvas. You make certain things easier, like the coordination problem. Like right now, if we had to design, like say, a manipulator to go on the tumbler scale robot, it's actually a very tightly constrained engineering canvas, right? It's a light, small robot with very limited amperage in the battery, limited power in the ESP32s, and if we suddenly throw 4 more motors to control, which is the manipulator, with an extra camera, that's quite a lot of like load to add on it. So increasing the ambition, I think, increases that. And also I think
Right.
it maybe opens up more options, and depending on like how other people respond, maybe more interesting people can join the group, and slowly creates a virtuous cycle. Like the people with the people who get interested and are willing to commit both the effort and time and resources to the project might actually change at the higher level of ambition. Like right now, maybe more serious and talented people are looking at what we're doing and saying, this is fun and interesting, but it's like too small scale and a hobby. But if it were a little more serious, maybe we'll attract a different level of seriousness and participation as well, including in ourselves.
And it's not just the amount of money, right? Like for example, if it's just $500 of our own money versus, let's say, Yak Collective's treasury, so we treat it really differently, right? At least the commitment level increases a lot if it's like a common treasury.
Right.
So it's just
And I
structuring
think
it a little different.
there's a peer effect, which is like hanging out with you guys over the last 4 years. I think my learning curve has been like at least 100x what it would have been on my own, because when you're on your own, you tend to focus on your own areas of strength and you
Yeah.
stay
Yeah.
trapped in your own frog in the well way. I would have been basically making 10 different mechanical CAD drawings of different incomplete robots and never even tried to do any electronics or programming. Now with you guys, at least I move a little further up the stack. And I'm wondering, adding a couple more different types of people to the group with the right commitment structure, all of us will also have an increased learning curve and depth. Something like Yasha is another example. I think he's operating at a level of seriousness beyond us, which is why he's been very friendly as a good mentor. But we are basically too amateurish for him to spend too much time with us. But 10x this project, and suddenly I think Yasha would actually contribute more seriously,
Mhm.
right?
I don't know. I think I'm agreeing with Eric about let's call it vision. I don't think it's an issue of money. I think it's an issue of having a goal that is suitable for us, but also drives us ahead. And other people that like the goal could join. Having a more expensive robot, like you're suggesting, Venkatesh, does make it possible for us to do more interesting things, but it doesn't solve the problem that we want to do something more interesting. So I suggest we do it in that direction. Let's figure out what kind of goal we can sustain, and that even though lots of other groups can move faster, they're not moving in that direction. Okay, we've had this kind of discussion in the past. That's
Indeed,
what
yeah.
I'm thinking we should be focusing on. Maybe it's a niche, okay? Robots for picking lint up off carpets. No, I'm serious. It's not. We
No, I
have
was
other
just
people. They
chuckling
have
because your
money.
idea of interesting and my idea of interesting go in very different directions.
No,
But
I'm agreeing with you, but I'm saying that's what we need to focus on. I think we should first figure out a general direction which is interesting in a sustainable way, and then we can have a discussion whether it requires more money, more people, or other things.
Yep.
but
And I
there is
think,
also that. Oh,
yeah,
sorry, please,
go ahead.
Venkatesh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it's just we started. I mean, we met in the first place with the common dream to basically send a rover to space. Okay, and that
Yeah,
was a simple goal. Okay, and so we are a bit away from that, but still an option. But there is all this dimension with technology that is super interesting. But I think over the years, inside this dream of sending a rover to space, we have approached many things that may actually be that may actually require this crypto aspect. Uh, I'm just thinking, for example, about scavenging. Okay, something that we came back to quite a few times. I wonder
Yeah,
whether we're scavenging, is there is something about the compatibility of the DNA of the robots, whatever DNA means here, okay? So that they are compatible to be able to be plugged together with each other, whatever, okay? This is where protocols and involve technologies like cryptocurrency, not cryptocurrency, crypto, okay, could be relevant. Okay, so maybe it's a part of cryptobotics, to have an immune system for robots for the compatibility, because we know that all electronics are not compatible with each other, right?
At least for me, like the long-term vision of having some my own rover on Mars, it's motivating, right? It's
yeah.
like even if we are moving at or crawling really slowly, but at least it keeps me coming back. Okay, it's maybe in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I don't know. But it keeps at least me motivated. So that is like one of the things I like.
I
I
think for me, initially, I thought it was that. Like, if you remember in the first year, I was inspired enough by the mechanical design of the Mars rover to try and like replicate my own version, right? Exactly a six-wheel rocker bogie type rover, which I tried to design and print and stuff. But I think since then, I've realized that my own motivation is not necessarily Mars rover per se, but interesting mechanisms. And I think my idea of what an interesting mechanism is has evolved and shaped in interesting ways after we've done all our exploration. So we had the classic rover style. Then Eric introduced us to spider bots. And at some point, we started thinking about like two wheelers. And two wheelers now have made us explore a variety of like uh, pendulum form factors. And lately, my newest thinking is everybody seems to build very flat and cockroach kind of like robots. Why don't they build tall robots like the inverted pendulum robot that Eric just posted in Discord? That's much taller than most things we think of as rovers. But on the other hand, it does not look like a humanoid. Like right now, we only think of humanoids as the tall robots. And now I'm thinking Yakusaur, if you add like a manipulator, it starts looking like, a T-Rex or an ostrich or something like that. So currently, this could change by this time next year. If you ask me, I'll give you a different motivation. But right now, I think what I find most interesting is, can we build a tall two-wheeled rover that looks kind of like an ostrich and has a manipulator arm that acts as a neck and a head? That's kind of the mechanically funky design that interests me. And whether it goes to Mars or goes to Mojave Desert or pecks around in Mayor's Garden doesn't matter so much. I like that particular form factor. Let me put it that way. So maybe this is actually a useful exercise, like us all sharing what specifically is currently most interesting to us. So Anuraj and I shared. Maybe you both have one too.
um,
No, Venkat was just asking
I'd
like
like to
what's the
just say
motivation for
something.
each.
Can I say something about what Eric
Yeah.
suggested? Um, and compared to Rover on Mars and to what Venkatesh you just said, a rover on Mars requires too many steps, which once we thought were within reach, but Elon Musk didn't deliver fast enough. But Eric pointed out scavenging. Now, scavenging is a very interesting technical challenge because you have to be able to manipulate, you have to be able to identify, you have to be able to connect mechanically, you have to be able to connect electrically, and you have to, or hydraulically or whatever. And in the end, you have to have an interesting Frankenstein robot resulting from this scavenging. So I think it does provide both a vision and Venkatesh a very interesting uh, um, technological challenge. You're talking about a standing ostrich, and I'm talking about adding a wheel to a spider. Okay, what does that even mean? So the spider has to figure it out by itself. So my only question mark is whether the manipulation ability is solvable, by us. Because the other questions, like how do you connect, what does an adapter look like, um, how do you figure out what you're going to do and what your movement logics are going to be, appear to me to be scalable problems that we can solve small or we can solve big. But manipulation, in the sense of being able to pick up a piece disconnected from a different robot and somehow align it with the current robot, that might be difficult. In other words, not scalable.
So scavenging was a very interesting topic to me in the first couple of years, and I even named my rover after scavenging idea. But actually,
Hmm.
the simultaneously inspiring and depressing development on that was actually Eric's friends who showed up a couple of weeks ago. They've really gone far on that problem, right? They've come up with like a very composable grammar of components that
No,
can create like very different robots. And it's not quite scavenging, it's more modular
exactly.
composability. But that gives us some calibration of how hard the problem is and the kinds of like organization and effort it takes to make progress on it. I would say scavenging is actually a slightly harder problem than what they're doing. They have the benefit of working with well-designed parts that have been designed to work together. We are talking scavenging with like much more open-ended universe of parts. So probably a harder problem. So that's kind of what I mean. Yeah, but I agree. Yeah, so these are all examples of like things that are good, interesting goals. And I think if we can like synthesize like an overall project out of this under the $2,000 budget limit and say, here's a $2,000 proposal that is some mix of crypto and composability and scavengeability and ostriches and spiders and some this is a mishmash right now. I think then we can have something like a common focal point, and then that becomes the goal. And but this will take some synthesis effort. Right now, it looks like a buffet of ideas. Basically, it's not put together in any meaningful way.
We can do
I just want to say that
scavenge. Sorry, please.
I just wanted to say that scavenging is a very different problem for modular robots. Modular robots is more of, I don't know, we call it optimization problem. How do you build the best ones? What algorithms do you use for getting them to work both in parts and together? Scavenging is a much more wide ranging problem with lots of different questions. We talked about security. If I pick up an arm and I connect it to my robot, that arm might inject an attack into my robot. We talk, like I said, there's a mechanical question, there's an electrical question. But these questions are scalable. I think the scalability is more interesting. And when I say scalable, I don't mean scale up, I mean scale down. I mean, some of these questions you can build a proof of concept which shows some principle, and you can make it smaller and even smaller. You don't have to solve a big problem to make it happen. And unlike modular robots where the pieces have to fit together well, in scavenging, if we talked about the crab. Okay, so imagine a robot that goes around the house picking up garbage and building a sun protector for itself. Okay, that's one of the examples we talked about. Okay, that is doable, and the complexity of doing it doesn't have to be as complicated as a modular robot. Modular robots are well designed systems, maybe with emergent properties, while scavenging robots are about bricolage.
So this is a research question. I would bet against that. So if you and I had to have a long bet, I would bet that scavenging is a harder problem than modularity. But that's why it's an interesting
Please.
goal. We can actually test this. Oh, but while you brought that up, it just occurred to me that what Na was showing today is actually an example of scavenging and scavengeability at the software level. Like one approach to building a good software stack for a robot is think it through top down and design an elegant one for the whole thing. Another is, you have like a robot that physically puts itself together and is basically very primitive and can't do much, but then it goes and searches the software world for APIs and protocols and random blobs of code that it might form useful. Can it actually scavenge a meaningful software stack for itself? Which is what now spreadsheet is. Like we are literally asking that right now. Can we ask Notebook LM or ChatGPT or Perplexity to look at what's available out there and cobble together a software stack? I don't know if this is a hard or easy problem. I'm not a software guy, but that would be an interesting extension of what you're saying, I think.
It can be interesting to look at the intersection as well. Huh? I mean, if we since we are still nebulous, and maybe we should spend some weeks on framing this, but the intersection can be interesting because there are still commonalities. Huh? I do also bet that scaffolding is, to me, it's just a much bigger space. Okay, and it's also an open space in the sense that if the scavenging ends up with a rover that just takes something that has not been thought of and they are put together, what do we get in the end? Okay, we just don't know. It's an open grammar. Okay, while modularity is actually a grammar that is under control. It is pretty fine. But it's what is very interesting for me for what we already have. We have the tumbler, and we basically want to put a robotic arm on top of it. Okay, le robot or whatever. Okay. But how do we approach the problem? Do we approach it as we have a full automaton on one hand and a full automaton on the other hand, and we mix them, and we can predict the result? Or on the contrary, we don't know what's going to happen. Okay, and this is where the inverse pendulum is a very interesting problem because if the tumbler is modeled as a reverse pendulum, okay, and we have the robot that has another model, mathematical model, okay, can we predict what the end will be? And more interestingly, is for the scavenging side, is that we put an arm and we put a tumbler on the ground and we boot them. How can we? How can it come together on its own, basically? Okay, because we have on one hand an unstable system, and on the other hand another unstable system. And as you know, mathematically, two divergent systems at the same time can lead to something convergent. Okay? But how to get there sounds kind of interesting, and at the intersection of more what Venkatesh was talking about earlier, and Meyer, what you were mentioning now. Okay, so still very nebulous, but clearly there are theoretical and practical problems to deal with. That if we can get some results there, they are clearly valuable and super nerdy to attract another super nerdy people.
It just occurred to me that we can do virtual simulation experiments of scavenging just through simulated shopping.
Hmm?
So if you can build an web crawling agent that goes through like Temu and Alibaba and Amazon and all the sites and give it a budget and say, how would you spend $1,000? You can buy whatever components you like from all these e-commerce sites, but give a bill of materials up to $1,000, and then we ask, does this actually assemble into a meaningful robot, or did this agent end up buying a bunch of random parts? Right. So there's some interesting low level experiments we can do here. Anyway, yeah, I think promising direction. So yeah,
Junkyard,
this is what detailed brainstorm.
junkyard diving is what you're talking about.
Yep.
So it'd be interesting to get back, to this ChatGPT thread. I think what is Venkatesh who started it, where you were talking about with the ChatGPT about the inverse pendulum, with increasing complexity. Interesting, perhaps to continue on that line.
Yeah, we are
Good.
10 minutes past,
Yeah.
I guess. So next week we try to do some assembly. Uh,
So
Yeah.
just assembly, or can we target the whole setup? Because
Yeah, so I'll try to run the mini app control on my Tumblr, and let's see how far I get. Then we can try to set it up for others.
I might have to leave early next week.
Yeah.
I should be prepared and available as a guinea pig.
Okay,
same here.
see you.
Bye.
See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night. Good
Bye.
day.
Right.